Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and bring back in our casters here, our shoutcasters, and welcome, guys. It was very, very nice to catch up with King after not getting to speak with him for so long, and especially after that those crazy victories by Cloud9. But we're gonna move forward. All right, we're gonna move forward. We gotta finish out the day strong. All right, I see you giving me those eyes, Joshi. I see you giving me those eyes. We got Immortals Academy, or Immortals Progressive Academy, taking on 100 Thieves Academy in our final series of the night, and it's gonna be a banger. I'm so excited for this matchup.
I feel like you're always excited for the next matchup, Mazel. What is there a matchup you're not excited about?
What is that? Am I a hype man? It's like a yellow video game.
Yeah, so we do have 100 Thieves going up against Immortals, and it's been interesting to watch how these two teams have been changing over the course of the season, right? Immortals started off really strong, then they had a slump, and now they're kind of on the up and up again. And a big part of that has been them trying to figure out how they want to play around their two different primary carries, right? You have Chad and Arrow as the two primary places that you can shift towards, because Pretty has been very willing to kind of take a step back to make both of them look good by playing more of these enchanters.
Indeed. I thought that maybe we were gonna get magical. I just keep getting so distracted by the outfit. I keep thinking we're gonna like
gadget analysis,
something.
Here, let's see if I can do this. If I can
go. But in all actuality, the team on the whipped out.
That's horrifying.
The team on the other side, you don't need a magnifying glass to look at because it's 100 Thieves. And I feel like this roster kind of speaks
ever
for
since Lucio has come into the team, it has been a very, very exciting player to pay attention to, right? 100 Thieves, we've always known they have a ton of talent they're constantly trying to develop. And Bucio, former mid laner, moving that to support, is looking really, really strong across the board. He's one of the few people who I feel like tries to make mechanical outplays. He goes into a game with the attitude of, I'm going to absolutely destroy these kids on the other side, despite being one of the youngest players in the entire league.
It's incredible to me. And speaking of young players, right, that's what I want to talk about next is the rookies that are having such a big impact from both these teams.
They've both. We look at Bucio and Chad.
Are you on, Magical? How are you doing, buddy? Oh, yeah, I think he's muted. Okay.
Am I muted? I might be muted. I might be muted. There we go.
I see him like moving around.
I think I was muted because I was paying more attention to my magnifying glass.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, anyways,
yes,
as I was saying, because you guys didn't hear, Bucio, Chad, very exciting rookies, and you kind of already talked about Bucio a little bit with how this guy. We got to talk again about how he role swapped from mid to support and seeing his growth there. He has been so fantastic with landing these skill shots. But then Chad on the other side has been this really hyped up player. We saw him back on, you look back to how he was with 100 Next and then also playing with 100 Thieves Academy really briefly. But this guy has so much skill and just is able to really flex that with how often he plays for these early ganks, especially around bot lane.
And when he plays for the bot lane, right, he recognizes that he can play a more facilitative type of role and be this big ganker in order to make the other members of the team look even stronger. I made the claim previously that when Immortals play around Arrow, they tend to win a little bit more, and Chad, at least that game, seemed to think so as well. So as long as you get both of them in a spot where they are strong, it's going to be looking even better. And it's a lot easier to get Chad to play to Arrow than it is to get Arrow to play to Chad.
Yeah, I think that J4 is so important in that, right? Yeah, in his role as a facilitator, you need to have that stability from the jungle. But on the other side, Bucio, man, I gotta say, this kid came in with a splash. And yes, there have been some rocky pieces to the trek for 100 Thieves so far after he joined the team. It's still obviously present how mechanically skilled this guy is.
I really love watching Bucio play because, again, he goes into the game with the idea of he's going to mechanically outplay the other side. And by constantly creating situations where he puts his opponents on the back foot by dodging their skill shots, by going in with these aggressive plays, he's always in a spot where he is creating pressure on the other team. And as long as he's going to be able to continue doing that, he's going to improve a lot over the next couple of months before he eventually makes his way up to what we are expecting is an eventual LCS career.
It's honestly impressive to see like how much of an impact he's had in the support role for 100 Thieves and providing some of that extra playmaking that I feel like they had with Poom. And now, see, Puma's in the LCS. So, not a bad track record for supports from 100 Thieves Academy and their entire development record. But now going into this matchup specifically, right? There are so many interesting matchups. I know we've highlighted Chad, we've highlighted Busio, but in all actuality, right? Like the mid lane, the jungle matchup, Chad versus Kenvi. You've got there's just so many. The fact that we have this entire bot lane going head to head, we've got Arrow versus Wixie. It's all adding up to be so many fireworks, but I'm afraid that it might get a little bit lost in all of the fireworks itself.
That's what happens on the 4th of July, man. There's so much excitement back and forth. And we're a couple months out, but I mean, Valentine's Day was like a week ago.
Still got a little bit.
Magical was already giving away his heart to Takeover, so
we don't care about when your holiday is. We celebrate holidays all the time.
So wait, can I celebrate Halloween then?
I've always assumed you were. Is that not a mask?
I don't think so. I think we're just going to go ahead and shove us off ways because we're going to go on to Champion Select, guys. Have fun with the first game of our last
Thank
series.
you, Lennon. It's always good having you in. How dare you, Josh? I see how it is. I'm going to get revenge on you. I will get revenge on you soon. Don't you worry. It will happen soon. But I'm going to have to move past that for my own dignity and sanity. We got to look at our final series of the day. 100 Thieves Academy, Immortals Progressive Academy. Looking at both of these teams, and you kind of talked about it a bit with Immortals, where they had this really good start to the season, but then they had a slump, and now they've had a lot of 1-1s as of recently. While 100 Thieves kind of not exactly about the same thing, but they definitely have had a bit of this wonkiness, this back and forth, where some of their drafts are creative, interesting, but haven't really been able to facilitate the strengths of every member.
I agree. It's definitely been something where it's been interesting to watch teams like CLG and 100 Thieves struggling a little bit in this part of the season, right? We were seeing them have so much success earlier on that we just kind of assumed that they were going to step out so far ahead of the rest of the pack, along with potentially Golden Guardians and Cloud9, that it's a bit surprising to see that 100 Thieves have not been able to keep up. And I wonder if part of that has been the fact that they have been trying to play really, really heavily towards the top side. Like, that is one of the few teams that has been continuing to play in Italy for Kenvi during this season, and it's not always working out, right? They're playing very heavy coin flippy compositions, and even if you are weighting it and getting like a 60-40 or a 65-35, that still means that you're going to lose a fair number of games when you go for these very high variance style of games.
And as we're getting ready, we're getting into our Champion Select, we're seeing how these two teams are approaching the draft at the moment. A little bit of the early game taken away from Gamsu with that Renekton ban. A bit surprising to see that so early taken off of the table, but same with the Rise and done by 100 Thieves. Jimmy, I think, has had the best performances of any player in Academy on that champion. I'm surprised to see them be the ones to take that on blue side.
Well, there's a lot of strong champions that you got to make sure you are paying attention to, right? Caitlyn and Zeri being two that have suddenly become a lot more popular on the 12.4 patch than they were on 12.3. And the question remains, is Immortals going to try and stick with the trend of banning it, as has been so common, or are they going to leave them both up because they are suddenly happy to take that trade? I'm still convinced that Jinx is the best AD carry on the patch, but it's not a situation where all the pros are immediately going to be playing the exact same way. And with the Graves ban coming through, all of the strong AD carries are still available, and 100 Thieves get the pick of the litter. It looks like it's likely going to be Caitlyn, partly because Wixie's a good Caitlyn, but also because Busio is a really good Lux.
Well, the thing for me is I see Zeri open, and if Immortals play it, it has to be Arrow taking that. Concept of Wall, I love his champion pool. It's really unique. It's not really something that screams Zeri to me. It's not a champion that really fits into that kind of narrative. So if they were to play it at all, that's where it would be. But you can see it probably isn't going to be the case. They're listening to your advice, Josh. They are hovering this Jinx, and that is an Arrow champion.
Yeah.
That, to me, fits so much with how Immortals have been playing, especially if we look at Pretty, the Ivern, that he's been playing a bit too, normally has been banned previously, is still left open.
Yeah, and I love the fact that some of our players have been willing to step back. And I was going to say, give up their egos in order to try and make sure they are going to be finding success, but that's not dropping ego whatsoever. Ari's the kind of character you pick up when you say, okay, I'm going to carry this game, and y'all better buckle in because it is going to be fireworks, just like we saw previously. So Jimmy coming through with the Viger, and go ahead, Magical, go off.
I love Vigar. One, playing a lot of support, but seeing that we've been seeing this slowly work its way back into the meta, kind of as an answer into something like Ahri. And Jimmy, and I'm happy to see this. The scaling that you have with this champion, the zone control it provides for a team with the baby cages. I think it was Vigar V2. Doesn't like people calling it baby cage, but to me, you're corralling all the babies into that little zone. You're putting them into the baby cage. That's why I call it that.
I just think it looks like a baby cage, right? You know, it's got all the little decorations around the outside of it. It's got the it's very circular, and you know, just like in real life, you kind of torment babies when they're inside and just say, haha, you cannot leave. I'm going to go do adult things now, and I will see you in 2 minutes. Just keep that out of your mouth. But this is a situation where Immortals need to suddenly find a way to actually deal with it, because there's a ton of zoning tools coming out from the members of 100 Thieves, right? Caitlyn, Lux, and Vigar all known for having a ton of battlefield control during all these team fights. And while there's plenty of dashes coming through for Pretty, the range isn't necessarily greater coming out for Immortals, so they are kind of forced into a situation where they need to try and find some form of engage to come through, and that puts a lot of pressure on Joey and Concept, who still need to select their champions.
But I'm looking at who's gotten things drafted. Having Chad on Viego, when we look at the early parts of the Season 4 Immortals Progressive, when they were winning, every single game was Chad on Viego. This is a great champion where he feels so empowered. Plus, he doesn't play it like we've seen many other Viego players, where it's more about scaling, farming up.
Ooh.
He plays aggressively right out the gates. I don't think that that's real. I think that's just a hover to kind of torment Busio, having played that previously. And I'm pretty much being correct right there, right out of the gate. But I just like to see we're having a powerful pick for Chad. But then on the other side, this Lux for Busio. One of his best performances we've seen from him this split when he joined back in with 100 Thieves Academy was on this Lux, since he is that mid laner swapped to support.
That makes a lot of sense, right? You just create a lot of space. You have similar play styles from support to mid lane when you are playing a lot of these mages. And once you have that kind of control, you are so much more powerful, because you no longer have to pay attention to CS. You can focus entirely on what your opposing laners are going to be doing. That's part of why Busio has been having success. But Gamsu going to be picking up the Aatrox for themselves this time around. This is something that's kind of been a Philip special so far for FlyQuest this time around, but it feels very natural, right? You don't have great ways to deal with it. You just need big, manly men to stand in front of the backline, and in this case, Aatrox is one of the manliest of them all.
With the Xin Chao as a possible pick for Kenpy, there it is, locked in. This is an interesting composition. It really does have that good spacing tools that you can have with Caitlyn, Lux, and Vigar, but also having the manly men that stand in front of you with an Aatrox Xin Chao that can absorb a lot of the long range that has been drafted by Immortals at this moment. With Wukong locked in as the answer for Concept. He's tried this a couple times. It's mostly been Philip playing that Aatrox where he plays Wukong into it, but hasn't had the most success playing against it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting, right? Last time Concept built the Essence Reaver and that threw Rafa for a bit of a loop. I don't expect the same build to come through, because even Concept at the end was like, yeah, there was kind of experimenting because I thought we were so far ahead. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you do need a bit more sustainability early on in the game. Now, the biggest thing about Immortals composition that I'm noticing is, while they have a lot of dashes, they don't have a lot of blinks, which is kind of important when you're trying to deal with Vigar's Event Horizon, right? You cannot dash through that, because you're just going to get stopped, and then you're going to get blown up by the members of 100 Thieves. And so I'm kind of curious how Immortals are going to be able to find a large enough lead so that it doesn't matter and they can dive through Vigar's E anyway, because that's going to be the core part of what Immortals need to do. They've kind of put themselves in a situation where if they don't make the early plays, Immortals will scale them up. And so my eyes are on Pretty to step up, not be going with the Enchanter playstyle, but instead take control like we saw Takeover do previously in the day.
Well, and a little bit of a teaser for future content to come. I did get to talk to Pretty about some of those enchanters, as well as playing more of these styles like Ahri, and he always loves playing this style. This is much more his comfort, playing the things like enchanters, more so because how powerful he sees them, as well as being, in his words, a free win. And so, playing Ahri, the early game pressure that he has, especially with Chad playing Viego, and playing Viego in a way I expect where it's a level 3 gank, as he always does, That's a lot of early pressure and a lot of early plays we expect from Immortals getting ready for our final game of the day, our final series of Day 1, Week 6, 100 Thieves Academy, Immortals Progressive Academy. And with a Vigar versus Ari mid lane, I'm excited, Josh. I am ready for this game.
Dude, I just realized why it's so hard to find Joey on Twitter sometimes.
Why?
Because his @ is "the air is dry."
You didn't know
I
that?
didn't know that.
Oh. I
And
knew
now
that.
Twitch chat knows it, so go follow him on Twitter. But, like, man, that's why I couldn't find him. I was trying to
What's your Twitter again?
Joshi_TV. Why?
There
What's
you go.
yours?
Follow that as well. There you go. Anyways, getting it towards this game, I'm interested to see the early plays. I'm expecting Immortals to be the one, as you had highlighted, to look for these early plays because they have to.
Yeah.
They've got to fear the fact that if Vigar Caitlyn, as the game progresses, will get scary. Of course, Caitlyn Lux in lane is still a powerful lane duo, but eventually, past the trough, past when you get the 2 items, that's when Caitlyn, especially with the Vigar, will start bringing a big punch to your face.
I don't like getting punched in the face. That is one of the worst places to be punched. So let's see if Immortals can find
I don't think it's the worst, though.
It's, you know.
Have you ever gotten punched in the kidneys?
I've been needing the kidneys, but... Oh, Joey finds Wixie! Shenyi!
Nice pull. It's Wixie and a lot of damage on top of the shield from Busio. We'll make it sure that Wixie's perfectly fine on the other hand.
Going to be A-okay. Not getting punched too hard in the face. It's just a light tapping. You know, a little bit of knuckle action coming through from Arrow and Joey. But overall, the fact that Busio with a heads-up play and starting with the shield means they are relatively safe. But also showing that means that there's not a lot of pressure that Busio and Wixie can put out. And ooh, good dodge coming out from the Lux. But notice the way that he's moving and the very, very small movements that he makes and turning on a dime. You know that means that his mouse is really, really close to his champion, right? The ability to turn that quickly is something that, you know, a lot of lower elo players in particular kind of struggle with. But that's how they do it, is they don't make these big movements with their mouse. It's very, very tight, and it makes it much easier to dodge.
So back when I was first learning League of Legends, it was my first MOBA I ever played. I practiced that so much to make sure that I could turn on a dime. And that's why one of my few skills I have in this game, because I'm not very good at it, but one of my few skills is I'm really good at dodging abilities.
Yeah.
That is the only thing that I have going for me.
Nice. Well, we'll have to play Moon Dodgeball, because I can't hit skill shots, so hopefully you would be able
I'm really
to
good
win.
at that.
But this is something where the one thing that you know, I'm quoting Smacks, quoting Aphromoo again, and I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up from time to time. Is the way you beat melee engage supports as like mages? And, oh my god, you didn't see the ward. That is tragic.
Oh. Anyways,
Yeah,
go back to
the
what
way
you're
you
talking
beat melee supports this way is you dodge the hook and you walk forward and auto them twice, right? And Busio is one of the best supports at doing the little dance, moving back and forth in ways that you don't that your opponents don't know what your next move is very likely to be, and you'll notice that he will constantly be jiggling.
Oh, that was a good pull from Joey with the chompers placed down, so they had to flash away. Busio's got Ignite ticking, so he took a lot of damage that entire time with only getting a little bit back onto Joey.
And I'm sad that he ends up getting hooked, but that is just the nature of the game, right? You know, even if you dodge 70% of them, you will get hit by 30%, and that 30% is going to end up hurting. So good play from Joey, able to actually lock that down, and we'll see if Joey can stand up as the more veteran support in this game. He does have a lot of pressure on the map, and alongside Arrow, they can definitely take control if they find another hook or two.
You know, I've just realized.
Yeah?
Jimian has Predator.
Yeah, that's normal.
I know it's normal, but I don't know how I feel about it in this game. And the reason I'll say that is because we look towards the top lane, where Concept's been actually getting a good trade against Comsu. That trade, not necessarily. But the bot lane, you're expecting to have shoved in from Wixie Busio. Looking at the jungle, Kenvi might want to fight a little bit against Chad, but I just don't see when you're going to use this Predator as much as other things, especially in this lane phase, which is what you need to make sure you're not falling behind with Pretty.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think you're super worried about falling behind as Vigar up against Ahri, right? It's not the hardest thing in the world to dodge Ahri's charm, especially before level 6. And like Viger's other keystones, like you have Electric Q, you have Dark Harvest, you have Comet. That's kind of it. I guess you can go like Unsealed Spellbook if you're feeling it, or like First Strike, but you already have enough damage.
Okay, that's fair. We'll get back to that in just a second, because that was a good pull coming in from Joey, even though the Ignite's ticking. It's not enough. First Blood, it's a level 4 gank for Chad, a little bit behind schedule, but still, that's effective.
Good stuff. And again, praise to Joey, right? We were just praising Wixie and Blucio for the ability to dodge in and out, but the roots come through from Aaron. That is going to be enough to down the support, even through the heal. As we take a look at the replay, just flashing forward and Blucio trying to find his way away, not going to be able to do just that. But Concept also fighting Gamsu up in the top lane.
Yeah, was able to get a flash out of Gamsu, flash for flash. He's level 6, but here's Kevy to back up his top laner. It'll be a rough time for Concept without that Cyclone, without that flash, so Kenvi easily takes him down. Wasn't too difficult of a fight there from the side of Kenvi, getting himself a nice kill, making up for the plays that are happening on the bottom half of this map. And I kind of want to see now where Kenvi will go from here. With that kill, even if Gamsu wasn't able to get an assist, at least he's got a little bit more control back in this top lane.
Yeah, I mean, Concept will continue to be a little bit strong in this lane because Gamsu didn't get that kill, and because Concept doesn't really lose a whole lot of experience in the play either. It makes it relatively easy for them to just build up a bit of a wave, and Concept, you're seeing the way he's moving means that this wave is actually going to be pushing back towards Concept's tower, which makes it very difficult for Gamsu to walk forward. Noticing he's going with the Warden's Mail, a very defensive style of build.
Right.
Not expecting it to actually be able to fight.
I was just about to bring that up. I see the Executioner's Calling from Concept. A typical item you build against Aatrox, but the Warden's Mail kind of caught me off guard
nice dodge.
against the Wukong, but here's that World Ender. There is still no Flash, no Cyclone. That had been used previously to try to utilize that level and experience lead. Concept's got to fight this out, but he's dodging away from the Darkened Blades. Gonna have the final one and the kill for Gamsu.
Oh, that's what happens in this kind of lane, man. Whenever you actually go for these fights, it's very, very much about understanding how much damage you do and how much damage your opponent does. And Concept, I think he thought his ultimate was up. The way he was moving to dodge the actual Qs coming through from Gamsu made me think he was trying to all in, and then realize, oh crap, my ultimate is not available, and ends up just giving over a kill because he dodged a lot of what Gamsu was doing. There is no more cooldowns available, and it does mean that a huge wave is going to get lost to Concept. So it ends up being back and forth up here in the top lane, and Concept going to have to try and find his way back in as Gamsu builds a lead.
Gamsu builds a lead as well as having a level experience lead. Those are going to be the two things that Concept has to overcome. He spent a lot of time in the death screen with the gray screen. And here in the bot lane is the power Immortals still have. They've got level 6 for Arrow. There's the rocket, but flash away. They've got the kill on one, but it's 1v3. Arrow chasing down Wixie. He's got to be careful because he wasn't able to pick up the kill or get excited. The zap, though, it will connect with an ignite on top of Arrow. Dodging away from the light, finding the flash in. Win becomes lightning. 2 for 1 win for 100
Stab him in the butt comes Kenvi, and good play coming through all around. The biggest thing, though, the most tragic thing was Wixie being a little bit too close for the ace in the hole. We'll take another look at this as the damage ends up going through and having a big impact, but I love the cleanse coming through from Arrow to make sure he can keep dodging in and out, and the flash from Wixie keeping him alive. The only thing that prevents this from being a clean 2v2 win for 100 Thieves is this right here, just walking a little bit too close and coming in range of the zap.
But at least Kenvi was there to capitalize as well. He might have had to use his flash, but you'll take that. You got a kill over Arrow. You're making sure that your Xin Zhao, your Caitlyn as well, are not in the worst position.
Oh, he knows.
But still, this is going to be difficult. Lucio is here to try to answer what Joey is, and they already got the kill for Chad. Event Horizon hits the lockdown onto Pretty, but no further can they push up. The kill was already picked up perfectly for Immortals, where they can now just rinse and repeat. They can control this top quadrant of the jungle.
See how much pressure they're able to put out, because 100 Thieves, going to be backing away. And that does leave Wixie and Arrow down to their own devices down in the bottom lane. They are basically equal in terms of itemization at this point, while Arrow is a little bit ahead. Good dodge comes out from Jimmy, and there's been a lot of punch and counter punch coming out from both these teams, and the leads are kind of all over the place, right? Like Concept and Gamsu are Slight advantage going over to Gamsu. The mid lane is slight advantage going over to Pretty, but overall it ends up being very even.
Busio is stepping pretty far forward. I was a little worried for him at that moment, but with the position of Chad, wasn't there to capitalize on that pull that Joey was able to get. And let's go back to how wonky this game's really been for both of these. It's 10.5 minutes into the game, but there are these weird leads. Concept, he's died twice, but he has a slight CS lead over Gamsu, and maybe a little bit of that comes down to the build path that we're seeing. He's 500 gold behind an Aatrox. That's not actually that bad for having died twice this early into the game.
Yeah, that is almost the entirety of the lead between the two teams. Gamsu currently over Concept, getting that 1 kill, and just overriding the fact that, you know, he wasn't having as much success with the creep score earlier on, but now, as he does have that control once again, he can push up and make Concept a little bit more uncomfortable, because this matchup is entirely about, do you have enough damage to actually beat your opponent? And actually, really, now that I think about it a little bit more, I really like the Warden's Mail that Gamsu has picked up. It is more efficient of a defensive item than Ninja Tabi, especially if you do not need the movement speed early on. And Gamsu feels very comfortable just brawling it out now, because Concept has so much of his damage built into his auto attacks, and even his Q, right, does most of its damage, or a large part of its damage gets reduced by the Warden's Mail.
Fair point. Those are all good points. And this is also just kind of a tale we've seen with Concept struggling against these Aatrox lanes, even when he gets the counter pick, playing this Wukong. It's punished, gets bullied around, and it's up to the rest of the team to try to make up for that lack in the top lane. As you can see, Chad, he's in a pretty good spot. He's got a slight CS lead over Kenvi, but the fact that he's been able to help out some of these lanes, help out this bot lane a bit too, is putting him in this position to be the scary carry in the mid game, where he tends to play the most aggressively. That's why we were highlighting, Chad, this rookie player and how he's able to play, because he's up against Kenvi, the senpai for him, the guy who he was slightly replacing during the last Proving Grounds, but still here on Immortals, and he can make this play in the bot lane. He easily killed both of the bot laners of 100 Thieves.
Easy play. Chad just needs to get out. Good ultimate gets him out.
Oh, and Jimmy now in a bad spot. The cleanse from Arrow to get out of the baby cage and look for that chase down, but now he's overextended. Kenvi is punishing him. Wind becomes lightning sidestep, but they can jump down with the audacious charge, and waiting with the low health bars on the side of Immortals. He can take down Arrow and look for a little bit more, poking in the butt of Joey, but he Spider-Man's out to safety.
Good play coming through. You saw one of the big differences in the way the AD carries play, right? Arrow, you saw him move forward and then turn around and auto attack a minion because he's using a move to actually go for things, and when you break the vision, you're not going to be able to go any further forward. But I love the clean play that they do to actually take down this dive. The only thing afterwards is whether or not you can aggress onto Jimmy, and Arrow seems to think so, but Jimmy does a good job at breaking line of sight, and as soon as this happens, there is no play left to go for. Kenvi comes through and is able to clean up Arrow after a bit of a chase.
And even after the replay, we'll talk about this a bit more, because Kenvi, it's a nice capitalization to be able to get the kill, but the fact that Arrow dies means the dragon is taken by 100 Thieves. They had control on that bottom half of the map. No longer do they have to worry about Arrow, the man advantage that Immortals had because that was gone. Everyone was too low to actually fight back over the objective.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, right? The number of people you have is, you know, overshadowed by the quality of them, right? And by the quality in this case, I am talking about like how much
quality over quantity
HP you have, right? Like if you are so low that you walk up and you will die by getting looked at strangely, then you probably shouldn't be in that fight. And we definitely had lots of Immortals members that were feeling a bit self-conscious. They didn't want anybody to look at them during that last engagement. So my game ends up being right on back to even between these two teams. And even game states, you know, when both teams are about as strong as the other, Magical favors a scaling team. And who is that? Viger.
Me?
Yes.
Oh.
I hope you're not continuing to scale.
What if I want scales, though? That would be kind of cool if I was like a dragon person, you know? Or maybe like a lizard
person.
Right?
Or
a snake person.
You sound like a Spider-Man villain. I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
That's the coolest thing, is it not? Let's be honest. Who doesn't want to turn people into dinosaurs? Come on.
Most of us, probably. You know, if I could...
Oh.
do both.
Oh.
I'd consider doing
Yeah,
both.
por qué no los dos? But dinosaurs.
Yeah. Well, here come the dinosaurs.
Yeah. Here. Well, right here, these aren't looking like dinosaurs. These are looking like ravenous beasts chasing down the members of 100 Thieves, but they're getting a lot of damage onto the members of Immortals. They've got to be careful. It's still that man advantage. The quality and quantity were on the side of 100 Thieves, but they weren't able to get any kills.
But they will be getting a turret for Immortals as Immortals takes down the bottom lane outer turret. Yeah, the first turret of the game going down and all the money going over to Pretty. So that's money going into his pockets. And again, we have to ask, how is he going to be the big playmaker for the team this time around? Arrow on the Jinx. We saw that he's still looking for his opportunities to be the big bad of the team, but he's not necessarily getting as much gold right now as the Greek mid laner has been.
That is true. They've been able to get a lot more for Pretty at this moment, and you wanted to see that anyways. Even though we were highlighting Chad and looking at this young player and how aggressive he can play, Pretty on Ahri needs to be this one ahead because of who he's facing off against. Jimmy on Vigar. Someone who eventually not even eventually, just continues throughout the game to infinitesimally grow as a character and as a champion with the additional AP you get each and every time you land an ability onto an enemy champion or stack up with you.
The crazy thing here that we're going to have to pay attention to is something we haven't gotten a lot of opportunity to talk about is the number of Death's Dance and Mob Mortius builders that are available to both sides of the map, right? And in this case, there are 2 on both teams, but one of them is going to be going up against Ahri, who does the damage over a bit longer time and little bits of burst here and there, and one of them is going to be overkilling you by 1,000 damage anyway. So the fact that the Mob Mortius and the Death Dance is likely going to get built for both the Wukong and the Viego coming up very soon is kind of overshadowed by the fact that the burst that Jimmy will have by the time these items are online is going to kind of ignore it in a lot of ways anyway, whereas Pretty going to struggle to actually deal with both Kenvi and Gamsu.
Well, not just Jimmy. I'm also looking at Boostio. We talked about Boostio before, but we'll have to put that on pause. We'll bring that back up in just a second because World Ender was popped with a lot of damage on top of Gamsu, but Kenvi's nearby. The Chompers are keeping him from re-engaging that fight, but Gamsu survives through a lot that Immortals threw at him.
But they will be getting the turret, and they will be having an opportunity to back away and spend any of their gold before they go over towards the dragon as well. And just as we saw previously, where there was a play on the top half of the map that Pretty got the bottom lane turret, now Jimmy going to be getting the bottom lane turret himself. So a lot of money there, and then 100 Thieves will also grab the mid lane structure here as well, getting them a lot of priority right before the dragon actually happens. And Arrow is going to be late. Wait, why is he still here?
All right, Josh. I don't know, but I'm bringing this back up because I wanted to talk about this, but I got so rudely. Well, that's a conversation for later. I want to talk about Boostio because I was trying to bring him up before, but I got rudely interrupted by a team fight that was breaking out.
Unbelievable,
trying to kill Gamsu. Because you were talking about Jimian with the fact that he's going to be able to override a lot of the Maw of Mortius builders on the side of Immortals with how much damage he provides. But Boostio is almost in a similar boat, where you kind of have these 2 threats in both Vigar and Lux that can burst through a lot of that magic resist shields that you can build up.
Yeah, we'll see how effective they can be. Pretty just getting a little bit of damage. And we'll see, because neither of those items are online just quite yet, but Immortal is taking a big chunk of damage coming through from Boostio, and now they are in control of the dragon. They're the ones starting it. Will 100 Thieves try and get it going, because they don't see Concept yet?
Concept will get spotted out now. They know. It's going to be smite secured for Chad. And here's Concept inside of the pit, but Gamsu is on the other side as well. They've got the kill onto him. Now they can re-engage. There goes Concept. Huge Cyclone. The damage. It's splitting him apart. There's no escape. It's a double kill for Pretty. They've got Concept, but he did his job. He made sure that he could set up the team so that Immortals could win the fight.
Great resets coming through, and now Chad running like a little Chad, trying to find Wixie, or Kenvi.
Yeah, finds him. But he fails out of that. They've already won 3 kills and a dragon secured by Immortals. Those are massive wins for their side, where they now can go back if they want to, spend a lot of the gold they've accrued, or even utilize Arrow in this mid lane to look to topple this tier 1.
I love the concept of the composition that Immortals have built for themselves. Because we get to see that with double reset characters between Chad and Arrow, it makes it very easy for them to play towards both of them. You kill one person and suddenly the rest of the team is ready to go and continue popping off because both these guys are carries in their own right. And once you start getting the first reset, it is so much easier to get the second and the third. And so the first kill easily changed into several more coming through for the members of Immortals. And both Chad and Arrow having a good game. Pretty having a good game, but they just need to continue playing it through, continue playing it smart and accurate, because there's always a looming Jimmy on the horizon, a small man casting a large shadow.
See, you talk about the reset champions on Immortals with Chad and Arrow. Pretty on Ori is a pseudo reset champion as well with the changes that happened. Ori, and you can see this is the power that Ori can have, especially with the early game pressure. 3, 0, and 3. Shadow's Flame completed on this Ori. That's 2 items compared to just the components on Jimian. This is that powerful spot that you can have over a Vigor before they can keep getting more and more AP, but that looked a little dicey there for Chad. Body block of a lot of these abilities, but he had to burn a lot to survive.
Little spooky coming through. Chad having to use the ultimate to keep himself out, but Immortals will not lose a whole lot other than time off of that last play. And the important thing to note is that 100 Thieves do not do the Baron particularly quickly just quite yet. So even after forcing Chad back to base, there's not a whole lot that they were able to get with that, but it does give them a lot of time to create pressure up in the top half of the map, where you can start creating enough vision control that Immortals will feel more and more scared trying to walk into their own side of the jungle. And just as we were having a conversation with Ari previously about how important it is to be in places first so that you can hit Charms from Fog of War, the same thing is true from Vigor. If you are able to throw down a baby cage and your opponents can't react to it, it is so difficult for the members of IMTA to ever walk to an objective.
That zone control that he provides. You can lay that down in a lot of these tight corridors to make sure that 100 Thieves can't, that Immortals can't do anything and 100 Thieves can get the advantage, but right there it can be taking a lot of damage. The flash in, too, from Joey. They've got a death charge on a Busio, but Busio's still perfectly fine. Concept TP'd into this fight, but wasn't able to really accomplish anything, even if they have the man advantage.
Well, Immortals are still going to be in firm control of the top side of the map, right? Because they are here first. They call dibs, and now 100 Thieves are going to be the ones who have to try and walk in. But as long as 100 Thieves aren't threatening to actually do the objective, or excuse me, the Immortals are not threatening to do the objective, 100 Thieves can kind of hang out, right? And Gamsu off in the side lane is going to be continuing to farm up, building a small advantage over Concept. And we've seen that Gamsu, when he actually gets to participate in a lot of these fights, has been a monster throughout the entire season.
He has. This is very true, but we haven't really gotten to see that except for the one time that he immediately died in this game. So we're waiting on that point for Aatrox to be able to join with the rest of the team. And until then, it is going to be off Kenvi. It's going to be off Busio and how they are positioning to set up a lot of these fights, because you have Jimmy on a Vigor, which is nice, but Busio is going to be the one really with the main person, which is Kenvi and Wixie.
Could you clap a couple times for me, Magical? Perfect. That's for you, Kangas, our own little Captain America, understanding the references about the dinosaurs. Proud of you, son. Sorry, I was not paying attention because I was totally reading what I was supposed to be from our producers, but we do have a dragon coming up in 30 seconds right now, and both teams are going to have to jockey for position, and they're coming in from different choke points, but 100 Thieves very quickly rallying. And remember, Jimmy and choke points, Joshi talks about the same thing again, and now Gamsu just goes over the— what? Gamsu!
They looked for Chad, but Gamsu too early. He's surviving for a damn long time and will be able to get out of there. Chad went over the wall, he gets the kill, and now he can reset. He flashed away because he was a little worried, but look at where Pretty is. He's got a flank. Chad's here too. They've got the chains connected. Heartbreaker can be. He had to flash to dodge away, but Pretty this entire time has been getting a lot of the attention. Spirit Rush connect with a charm. They've got a kill, and Jimmy, those little legs, you gotta run for the hills. The Ignite is burning. Where's the shield? But the flash from Pretty's the rampage he needs.
What was that? Gamsu just goes over the wall. I spent this entire time setting up how you want to play around the choke point. And oh my god, Wixie almost turning it around and saying, who cares about choke points? I'm just going to outplay these fools. But Gamsu just like completely ignores the advantage that they had built. And now Immortals are going to be punishing 100 Thieves for their hubris. This is going to be at least a turret going down. And if Immortals are feeling frisky, they could dive this.
Concept never used his Cyclone. He held on to it the entire time. Busio is out of the equation. Only Wixie survived that entire fight. Kenvi might be back on his feet, but that is a huge swing for Immortals.
Punishing an immense amount for that play coming through from Gamsu, feeling himself a little bit too hard, and now Immortals, they just need to make sure Chad gets out so that there's no opportunity for a counter swing, but Gamsu not going to be fast enough to keep up with Chad, as he does end up just backing away. We'll take a look at this replay here, but like, look at how much control they have over this brush. He just goes in by himself. The rest of his team is not there to follow it up, and I mean, Death's Dance is... he doesn't even have this stance. The fact that he was able to get out alive for a little while was great, and it almost looks like it doesn't matter, but because the flank is coming through, you have to devote your abilities to both sides of the fight. You can't deal with both Pretty and Joy at the same time, and unfortunately for 100 Thieves, Immortals are strong enough that they can just run them over.
And run them over, they did. 19 stacks on the Magi's for Pretty after that fight. They've got themselves 3 dragons within Soul Point. The Ocean Soul should be theirs with this advantage. They've been able to swing over 100 Thieves. But we gotta keep saying this and keep going back to the scaling possibilities that 100 Thieves have on their side. And being able to fall back onto someone like Jimmy and Busio to provide a lot of damage, plus Wixie. With these 2 items, that's usually when people start talking about Caitlyn getting out of the trap.
Yeah, the pick potential coming out from 100 Thieves, right? It's Wixie, Busio, and Jimmy who are all huge parts of that. Because if any of them get crowd control that lands, if you step on a trap when you're not supposed to, if you walk into a light binding when Wixie and Jimmy are around, suddenly it all compounds.
Oh, and the pull attempted onto Jimmy, and huge Cyclone. The damage, they've already blown him up. There's no baby cage that can hold in the side of Immortals. Instead, it's Kenvi who will fall inside of the baby cage that was thrown down by Chad. 2 dead on the side of 100 Thieves, and with it being nearly 27 minutes into the game, the Baron should easily be picked up by Immortals.
Chad getting so much HP or AP as Viger, absolutely crazy. Composition coming through, and both he and Pretty are still deathless in this game. They start up the Baron buff because they find their way onto Jimmy once again. 100 Thieves not playing around these choke points particularly well and allowing Immortals to pick their fights. Once again, watch where Jimmy uses his baby cage as this fight ends up breaking through. It's gone a completely different choke point, not respecting the fact that Immortals can just walk around the other direction, and by the time that Jimmy goes down, the baby cage is not up. That baby cage is not his, that's Chad's.
Yeah, and that's a huge... we didn't even think about that. That if you killed Jimmy you get that zone control as Chad. You pretty much just steal that away, and Chad here has been playing amazing. From level 4 until now, how he's been positioning to set up this team, even if there's a lot of veterans on his team, and you look towards Pretty, you look towards Arrow, how well they've been doing this game, Chad's been someone who's set them up to be massive carries.
And the reset composition, again, touching on it, is something that I feel like IMT, they're starting to be a bit more pioneering.
Well, Kenvi fights with Joey and Chad, but he's got some more reinforcements right behind him. Ace the hole, not really going to do enough to Joey. Here's the World Ender, but they've got the damage onto Kenvi, and they can easily take out Gamsu. He cannot survive. He's got a stride breaker, and that's it.
Yeah, the crazy plays coming through. Wixie.
Pretty. Look at Chad, too. Godlike, Pretty. Busio, the next target. Can't really do much when your whole team is dead. And Jimmy, and he's finally showing up here in the middle, trying to see if he can stick his nose where it doesn't belong. And Immortals make sure that he is back towards his base.
Jimmy and feeling like the last dinosaur. All my friends are dead.
And he's about to be made into a fossil. It is an ace from Immortals. They got the Baron. They've got everything they could possibly want outside of the Ocean Soul, but they don't need it. There's still a few seconds until Kenvi and Gamsu spawn, and with them now finally coming up, 5v2, they cannot stop this game from being Immortals. They take game 1.
We were talking about the opportunities for Chad to step up, for Arrow to step up, and the answer was, it was all of them at the same time. Right, every single one of these guys had a fantastic game. They looked really good, and Joey, to add on top of that, was constantly able to find these hooks and find his way into the team because of their better understanding of how to play around the geography of the map. So great stuff coming out for Immortals this game. Is 100 Thieves, they were 12-10. They're now 12-11 as a team that we were expecting to have a much higher win rate than this. something has happened that I'm not quite sure if they've figured out how to necessarily integrate Busio quite yet, despite his individual performance looking quite good. It's just a matter of figuring out how does 100 Thieves continue building their way back up, because they have the individual talent to do it, and I'm expecting that our next game is probably going to be closer.
But on the flip side, looking at Immortals and how they played that out, that's why I wanted to talk about Chad and that level 4, how well he set up the rest of his team. He got that bot lane out of a position that was normally really difficult. The Caitlyn Lux lane that a lot of people tend to struggle against. He made sure he got an early kill for Arrow. But then also how he was able to play with Pretty later into the game. Concept might have struggled on the top lane. That was the only lane he kind of let go. He said, it doesn't matter. Eventually, you'll be useful. I'm going to set up Ahri and Jinx, and we'll be good from there.
Well, that's a pretty good darn plan. If you are able to set up 2 reset champions to have success, they will reset and reset for you. And it was a great play coming out from Immortals. I hope we can see a little bit more of it, because it felt really natural. They just were on the gas pedal and they never stopped.
And they take game 1. We're going to toss it to a break. When we come back, we'll have something special for our halftime show. So make sure you stay tuned.